Sure. Look at we got a picture of Bronco right on the wall. We're all set.
Welcome to the wrap. Well, this is George. I'm Ringer. A little different spot right here this week, but that's all right. It's okay.
Change is booming.
Change is okay. Yes, the Rainier Muni is busy, and that's a good sign on a thirsty Thursday afternoon. Did you hear it, George? Well, I suppose we should start with football again.
We should start with football.
We've only got a couple of weeks of football left.
We've got 3 more games, Tim.
Just 3.
You know, and Sousa's.
Then what are we going to do?
He says you go through withdrawal, you know. And I thought that's time to pick up your books and to find some really good classic movies.
Start watching college basketball.
And in college basketball, which I did till 10:30 last night. So yeah, there's still always going to be sports, but football. We started this in August, and it's an unending type thing. I don't know how many. You have any idea how many football games you've seen this season?
Not enough. I think I'm being honest with that whole assessment. Okay,
you were always gone doing something.
There were 4 games on last week. Okay, the Vikings didn't play in any of them, and I probably watched the Vikings every week. But there were 4 games on. Saturday I watched maybe 10 plays, maybe. I watched none of the first game. That was Buffalo and Jacksonville. I saw no plays as I was doing basketball and other things on the radio. By the time I turned Philadelphia and the Giants on, it was like 24-0 or some crazy thing like that. So I said, well, I'm not going to waste my time. There's college hockey and other things to watch. Sunday, but I had a hockey game on the radio at noon. The game started at 2 o'clock. Tim needed a nap after everything else, so I watched maybe a quarter of the Cincinnati Buffalo game, excuse me, and then the night game. Yeah, so there you go. I probably watched half of the Dallas game, probably.
Sure.
Only because Dallas was my team, right? Because I picked them back in September that they were going to win the Super Bowl.
Well, I watched all 4 games.
So to answer your question, last week I probably watched 1 of 4 games and 1 total game of the 4. So did I get to watch enough football last week? No.
Well, and this is why my wife says you are going to go through withdrawal. But anyway, hey, I'll tell you, there were good football games last week. There were some weren't so hot, but there are some. When we talk about the New York Giants, I see the New York Giants and the Detroit Lions next year is coming up, and they're going to be beating people up. They are really, they've improved so much this year. If that continues, and they're still going to be able to pick up some drafts and pick up some help, New York's got a very good defense. They're going to come up with a little bit more offensive punch, and I think they're going to be a very good team.
I'll say this about the schedule for next year. Ones play ones in out of the divisions, 2 plays 2s, 3 plays 3s, and 4 plays 4. Well, remember, the New York Giants made it to the playoffs, and they're number 3 out of the NFC East, so their schedule next year for a team that made the playoffs is going to be very easy because they're going to be playing the other number 3s in the NFC. That's how they do these things. So their schedule is going to be weaker than, say, the Philadelphia Eagles or the Dallas Cowboys, who are 1 and 2. So when you look at that, the Giants should have a nice record next year.
Well, yeah, and I don't know what that says for the poor old Vikings, but
they're going to be playing all the number 1s, so they're going to get to play Philadelphia again. And they're going to get to play San Francisco, and they're going to get to play Tampa Bay next year.
So, what are you saying? They're going to be 7 and 8?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the schedule is going to be harder this year than it was this past year.
Yeah, it is going to be harder, and if they're it's going to be difficult.
That's how the NFL keeps that parity going, not just with the draft, with the schedule.
And the parity is just amazing.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, so number 1. Besides withdrawal coming, number 1 thing from last week that hangs out in your brain.
I tell you, the team that's going to win the Super Bowl has a very strong defense. And you have 3 of the 4 down there, and I don't exclude Cincinnati because their defense was pretty good too. So you've got 4 solid defense. At that point in time, any 4 teams can win the whole deal. I kind of like San Francisco because I think offensively, they just have They have some people. I mean, they always said, I don't know if Christian McCaffrey is a running back or a receiver. Well, it's the same thing that they can say for Dabo Samuels. I mean, he's running out of tailback position for crying out loud. He ran an option play last week, and or some kind of flip, whatever it was. I wasn't quite sure.
Get the ball in his hands.
Get the ball in his hands. They like throwing jet sweep to him. And as terms of pound for pound, a power runner, Christian McCaffrey really does the job. He really comes at you hard.
Yeah, you keep talking here.
Okay.
Because I can see our camera is tipping ever so slightly
Oh,
back a little bit, and I'm not sure why.
well, there you go. We wouldn't want any bad things.
Yeah, we'll see if that holds. I can see it creeping a little bit as we were sitting here. So yeah, I agree. Number one thing for me was the way Cincinnati went into Buffalo and
beat them up.
and humbled them. That's the word I used on the radio. 27-10. If you'd have told me before the game started that Cincinnati was going to win by 17 points in Buffalo and hold Buffalo to 10 points, I'd have told you were nutser than nuts. And so that to me was the big surprise. The other big surprise was how bad Philadelphia beat the Giants. I mean, think about it. Does that mean that the Giants are 38 points possibly better than the Vikings?
No, you can't go by those comparative scores, but they really did lay the socks to them. I mean, they put a beating on them, and I think that they were not only talking about, here, this is what this team is now, but you guys are going to come back here next year and beat us again. And you know, New York and Philadelphia, they have this strange relationship, a lot like Minnesota and Green Bay, you know, and it's competitive.
Yeah, I think the thing that sticks out to me is, yes, San Francisco's got the number one defense. They have won 12 in a row. But the way Philadelphia beat New York, I can't not get past that they are going to be the team that's going to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. It's going to be a dandy. It's going to be a Donnybrook. It's going to be a great game on Sunday between the Niners and the Eagles.
It's going to be a lip ripper, as they said.
But I cannot see. I mean, I can see the Niners winning it, but though as impressive as the Eagles were, and you remember back in September when we talked about picking teams, and there were teams out there, there were experts predicting that Philadelphia was going to the Super Bowl, and we chuckled right here, sitting right in this building.
I didn't know how good Jalen Hurts was going to be, and he has had just an incredible season. When he's healthy, he can hit you in a number of different ways. It's just the first thing that San Francisco has, not that Philadelphia doesn't have it or any of the other teams, is that incredible defensive line. And I mean, I watched one time Nick Bosa coming from his edge rushing all the way down to the opposite tackle laterally to make the tackle and make the tackle on the line of scrimmage. That's really hard to do. And, you know, and all those linemen are capable of doing that. I wouldn't know what kind of blocking scheme to hold against him. And they said, well, he wasn't able to get the rusher. The only time that I saw that he wasn't able to get anywhere, they had at least 2 people on him and probably even 3. That's how you block the guy.
That's how you take care of things, right?
Yeah.
So
if they can do that, if they can control that man and control that defensive line and a couple of really good linebackers, I'm not saying that the secondary is a weakness. It's not, but it's.
I can't believe that this is happening. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to tighten everything up.
It might be a ghost.
There might be somebody messing with us, George. I'm not sure. So we'll do it this way.
We'll do it that way.
We'll fight it a little bit. So anyway, not that we can't handle, George.
No. So Sunday's going to be a pretty good time. I'll do a Bloody Mary in the morning and have a nice championship brunch. The NFC and the AFC championship games are generally more interesting than the Super Bowl, in my mind. And so but I'm looking forward to Sunday. Sunday's a big day for me.
So I'm taking Philadelphia. You are taking.
I'm going to take San Francisco.
Okay, let's talk about the AFC a little bit more. Kansas City. We got to talk about Patrick Mahomes. Do you believe him saying that he's healthy?
Yeah, I don't think it makes really a whole lot of difference. Chad Henning ran that team and did a real good job. Went on a scoring
Are you
drive.
telling me that Chad Henning can do just as good as Patrick Mahomes?
I'm saying that you don't always have to have a superstar quarterback to play
check him
football.
for a fever.
You don't need a superstar quarterback to play football. You can have
to win championships games. You might.
And Chad Hennings he's no bum. He's been playing football for a long time.
Nothing against Chad. Yeah. Nothing. But he's not Patrick Mahomes.
No, he's not.
And Patrick Mahomes, I think, gives you a much better opportunity to win.
He does, but he's good. They got a good backup, and besides, they got a good offensive line, and that's what. No, I'm not saying Mahomes doesn't bring a few things to the game. He certainly does. That some of those sidearm passes and such. That's a strange situation.
It's not me. Thank heaven. I'm going with Cincinnati's defense being better than the Kansas City offense over a 60-minute game. So I'm taking the Bengals to go back to the Super Bowl, beat Kansas City for the 4th consecutive time. You are taking.
Oh, I'm going to take Kansas City, but I can see your point. Joe Burrows, he doesn't have to convince me he's a very
Joe
talented
Cool.
guy. He is Joe Cool, and face it, I always liked their helmets. Stripes and such on. It was always a good deal. Cincinnati's an amazing place, and way deep down, I kind of hope them to have some success. I just don't think they're the better football team right now.
There you go. Yeah. We're on exact opposite ends of the ledger, so it ought to be fun to see what happens and everything else. So.
Yeah.
Frank Reich, who got fired as the Indianapolis Colts coach in the middle of the season, is the new head coach at Carolina. It was just announced within the hour here on a Thursday afternoon, and I don't think that's the right choice, but maybe he can turn it around for them.
Well, maybe they can. I often wonder about the guys that come from the pros and go back to college. And that's where they came to begin with, and you know what I mean. Jimmy Harbaugh, in spite of some controversies, has won 2 games in the last 2 years, and he's probably going to get an extended contract with a raise because the 2 games are against Ohio State, and in Michigan they don't forget that, and so these guys that come from the pros and beat Ohio State, hey, they're in.
There you go.
Yeah.
Man, we've only been in the show about 12 minutes. We're done talking football.
Well, we only got 3 games left. It's still gonna come. Yeah.
We'll see.
But I just want to make mention this year on the Pro Bowl extravaganza, and that's what it is. They're going to have all kinds of activities, including a flag football game. Now, I'm curious as to what this entails and who's going to do the entailing, because I would suggest that there's some receivers and such that they could rip up a flag football team pretty good, so we'll see what happens. But
it's only going to be funny until somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, I remember that. I had lost a basketball player that way.
Yeah. I might even watch a little bit of it.
I
might even watch a little bit.
I want to know what they have for skills, because as an old coach, we did an awful lot of skills that they do in all kinds of pro teams. That's where we got the video from. And so, I'm curious as to what they do for skills and some of the stuff they do. Watch some of those edge rushers, and I'm not sure what other kind of things that they have, but it might be fun. It's going to be more interesting than watching the game.
It's got to be more interesting than watching the game. There you go. Well said. Well, let's talk baseball for a minute or 3. Let's talk about the Luis Arraez trade that occurred last Friday afternoon. And your thoughts on the Twins getting rid of the American League batting champion?
Well, it was he was kind of a strange character in that he hit well all season. He was a leadoff hitter, not second or third, but he lead off, and he got on base a lot. And in terms of his fielding, he was improving at that first base position. And it's just like, but you want to have a 6'3", great big tall left-hander. I know what they want, and he was 5'10", 5'11", a right-hander. He had all the unnecessary things to play that position. But we're going to miss that bat.
Gonna miss the bat. Gonna miss him in the clubhouse, I think, a little bit.
The good thing is, it looks like the Twins might put together a fair to middling starting pitching staff, which they haven't had in a long, long time, and that might be exciting.
I think it is going to be exciting. I think Lopez is the pitcher that they picked up, and then they've got a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old that they got as booster to it. Some young guys, an infielder, and then a 17-year-old out of the Dominican. Who knows what you're going to get out of those? I mean, the Dominican Republic right now has
I like
great
to see
baseball.
the Twins develop some of these kids instead of just going over and trading them with somebody else. Let's develop some of these kids. They're coming in here. This is what made St. Louis great and continues to make St. Louis great, was the farm system and the fact that they took these players and developed them. They trained them how to be, and right now I think the Twins are relying so much on St. Paul that they're not spending a lot of time in development of some of the younger players, and I'd like to see some pitchers they do that too instead of getting 30-somethings that we're unsure of.
There's definitely, we need somebody to come through, and obviously Arise was drafted by the Twins, and he was in the organization for 9 years, up with the big club for 4 years, so he's one of those guys that they've done that too. They're obviously Buxton and some of these others, these first round guys are no doubters and whatever else, so the Twins with their pitching staff look better. That's the reason why I can swallow this trade, that they got rid of Luis.
That's a good way of putting it.
I mean, to me, if Pablo Lopez, I think I got that right. If he's, he went 10-10 with Miami last year, and people are going to say he went 10-10. His ERA was 3.75. Not too shabby when you start thinking about an ERA at 3.75. His 10-10 record was with a team that was not very good last year, so don't judge his win-loss record. He's 26 years old, I think, and they're looking at it that he could be a number one guy possibly for this team. So now you put him in there with Kenta Maeda, who could be coming back. You put him in with Joe Ryan, Tyler Malley, Bailey Ober, who is continuing to improve, and I missed somebody else in that list. Dang it, I looked at it this morning. Anyway, all of a sudden you start going,
wow, that's not bad.
That's not too shabby.
And I remember a lot. They're going into spring training. Well, that's what we have spring training for, is to determine our starting rotation. It seems like they got some pretty good determinations going in, and we're 33 days out from spring training, and so hey, we're 33 days, so we can sit down here and pontificate about what might happen. 33 days, it'll all begin, and we'll all be happy.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for the Twins is the AL Central is not like you're going to be going up. I mean, Cleveland's good. Don't get me wrong. Very young team. Cleveland's going to be tough.
They are.
Chicago, kind of disappointed last year. Chicago, we thought might be the team that we'd have to beat. So when you look at those kinds of things, they only need to improve by a certain number of games, and they're going to be in the playoffs. So I'm all right with it. Like I said, it hurts. Luis, I love you, man, but hey, and I think he understands it, that
he knows.
Miami was dead set. They wanted him, and hey, what a good feeling that is, that another team wants you. They weren't going to trade with you unless they got Luis Arraez. So we wish him luck. I hope he does great in the NL.
I hope he does, and he will too. I mean, he's going to swat the old horse hide off it. So
he'll have the ball knocked all around. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about basketball. Let's start with the Wolves. Won 3 of 4. Won in New Orleans last night. It seems like one week we're praising them, the next week we're downing them, and then it's back and forth. This week they're back to the 500 mark.
Well, you see, and I think that they are still coming together. I don't know how long it takes to bring an NBA team to full focus. I'm just know that they haven't done it yet with this bunch, and nobody's figured out what to do with Cat. And until they figure out what to do with him,
Well, that is
You're not
going to
gonna
be a
know.
very interesting.
And they sell great pizzas here.
Oh, look at that!
Look at
Look,
that
he's-
commercial.
Rainier.
Put it up there so
Commercial.
that they can see the kind of pizza they can get here at the Rainier Beauty.
He's our
Absolutely.
He's our commercial
That's
man.
the commercial.
He's our commercial man.
Love you guys.
Yeah, you know the thing about it. You know the thing about Cat is we went online this morning while we were doing our other show, and here's the thing: they're saying they don't know. He's
He's
supposed to
gonna
be
be back.
He's
No,
supposed to
this
be
year.
back in the middle of January.
No.
Now they're saying we don't know when he's going to be back. Are they shopping him? Trade deadline February 9th. Are they shopping him?
You know, they got to find somebody that wants him, and it's because with all that talent, he is a load. And you know, there's a half a dozen players in this NBA with all kinds of talent that have some real difficulties adjusting to whatever adjustments you have to make to be a professional athlete.
Yeah, I look at it and say there's got to be a team out there that's got quote unquote a disgruntled guard who can that can shoot the ball a little bit, for lack of a better term, and leave Rudy alone in the middle and let Ant do what he does. And we need a Pippen to the Jordan for Anthony Edwards.
I wonder if Ricky Rubio is available.
Bite your tongue, George. Oh my
I knew that would
gosh.
get you excited.
God.
No, I think the Wolves are going to be just fine. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be picking it up a little bit. Anthony Edwards has to find his consistency. Russell has to find his consistency. And the big guy, I think the big guy is just going to continually improve. I'm not sure a whole lot of this is his fault.
Rudy Gobert's
Yeah.
fault? No, I don't believe it is.
No, I don't think
I think this is a chemistry thing right now.
It is right
with
now.
all the players leaving and all the players coming in. They're trying to find their way.
Yes.
And it's a process that hopefully will get better. And like I said, I'm the Karl Anthony Towns thing just seems to me like that he's not in the mix.
No, it's
He
a
was
boat
the
hung
problem.
up on a reef here, and so if you can find somebody and make a good deal, and you know, yeah, again, he is so talented when he's playing. He can be the team leader. That being said, when he's not there, it falls on Anthony Edwards, and he's a young man with all kinds of skills, and he is going to grow into that job.
Yeah, I think Karl Anthony is too much about me.
Yeah.
I wanted to believe that he was going to eventually grow up. He was drafted as a 19-year-old out of Kentucky. I thought, okay, give him 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Now it's year 8. I figured he'd finally grow up and go, look, in order to be able to win, I need people around me. I can't win it by myself. He hasn't figured it out yet.
No, and the pundits are basically saying, you know, they're finally saying, we think it's an attitude as opposed to anything else. Well, people have been saying this for a couple of years, and so, but it's coming down to that part, and so I again, hey, if they can get somebody for them and make your team better, I mean, they give up an awful lot of talent to get Rudy, our potential talent.
They definitely gave up their draft picks, no doubt about it. I think they were hoping that Cat could go like, okay, I can work with a veteran. Just doesn't seem to work. So
Not one that gets
maybe
more
got to reflush, reshuffle, and see what happens.
No, it's still the best Wolves team I've seen in an awful long time, if ever. So we got to go with what we got.
Oh, I think when they had KG and Latrell and
That was pretty
who
good.
was the point guard? Well, anyway, when they made it to the Western Conference Finals and Pete down there, like,
Yeah.
like, oh, but that's almost 20 years ago.
It's been a
So that's a
long
whole
time.
other. That's like a lifetime ago.
Yes.
So. While you were telling me about the Golden Gopher men's basketball
You
team,
know, it's one of those things. This is a good and bad story. Number one, the good part is Jamison Battle had 20 points, a whole bunch of rebounds, assists. This is the breakout game that they've been thinking that he should have.
Okay.
And they also
That's a big statement to
It
him.
is. And then there's this Trayton Thompson. He's a freshman. He's 7 foot tall. He started several games early in the year. He's thin, and he's he got knocked to the floor several times. I mean, physically knocked to the floor, but he got up every time. He wound up getting 8 points, a bunch of rebounds, a block shot, and he had a beautiful stuff that launched up through, and you just think, oh, this kid's got a few things, but he's a 7-footer. They got another 7-footer coming in, and they were out without Dawson Garcia, their leading scorer, and they were without Phelan Payne, who I think is just going to be one tough power forward. They got him playing center right now, but I'm not sure he's going to be there next year. But this kid was tough and physical, and he wasn't there. And there was a couple of other guys that ordinarily play. But they've discovered a bench, and they discovered some people that were they went to the floor and shuffling for a ball. It looked like a football scrum, and the Gophers came up, and one of the guys says, I haven't seen Indiana go for a ball like that all night. And so I like a team that'll lay a little skin in that floor. That's just kind of the deal. And the Gophers had no problem doing that. They were scrappy. They just ran out of legs. And
how many shots did they miss at the end?
11 shots.
11 in a row to end the game.
And I'm going to tell you, when you're watching the game, when it gets to 9 shots, you're moaning pretty loud. And so, Sue came up with my playlist, and this is like, So, no, it was a tough way to lose. But, like I said, there were some good parts of it, and having Jamison Battle back on the court at last, that was a good feeling. I think Ben Johnson's on the right track.
Indiana was one of the teams favored to win the Big Ten. They haven't been playing well earlier. They're playing better now, so for the Gophers to stick within 4 points, maybe it's a good sign. Maybe I shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, no, we still got the second half of the season coming up, and the boys will be back. And so, we'll see what happens. But I think that they're playing right now. The last couple of games is as good as I've seen them. Illinois, besides, they got blown out in that Illinois game, and it's hard to blow the Gophers out in the barn.
All right. The Big Ten Conference had their their pre-tournament spiel in Minneapolis the other day on Tuesday. The Big Ten women's basketball tournament's coming to Minneapolis March 1st through the 5th. Should we go?
Well, I haven't really thought about it too much, but let's see who's there.
Well, everybody's going to be the whole Big Ten will be there. All 14.
Oh, the Big Ten tournament.
The Big Ten tournament. All 14 of them are going to be there, and then probably the Gophers will probably be playing on day one. That just happens to be a Wednesday.
It is.
Geez, we could load up the camera and we could do a show from the Target Center.
Hey,
do you think they'd have a problem with that? I bet they would, but I bet if we.
No, can we get a pass? We should have IDs or something.
I'm sure we could get a hold of somebody and say, look, here's the deal. We just need a little nook in the corner over here, and we'll take care of it from it. No, it's not, seriously. It should be something that, with it being in Minneapolis, should be experienced.
It should be. Yeah.
Should be.
Okay, all right.
I can't say we can stay for all 5 days, but come on. You never know.
What day is that?
March 1st through the 5th, a Wednesday through a Sunday. Now, I know Eli's got a hockey tournament in War Road the 4th and the 5th, so... And I know I have a Little Fork Big Falls Bronco boys basketball game on the 2nd.
Well, you make arrangements, I'll jump in the seat.
Starts narrowing things down. Anyway, having said all that, Gopher women's basketball team, they play on Sunday, and they've been in that same mix. They're there till the end, and then they falter. Maybe it's something in the water at Williams Arena. I'm not sure.
But I'll tell you again, they picked up some serious recruitment from last year, from this coming year, and so they're not going to have the same team, and they have some talent on this team as well. So I think that this is going to mesh. They have good young coaches, except for Ben Johnson's high school coach. And boy,
Dave Thorson?
Does he look
that old
like
son of a?
Does he look like he's having fun?
Yeah, he was a college coach, then went and coached at De La Salle, and then now back to the college ranks.
Back to the college ranks. Yeah.
Could he work a set of officials? Good grief! From the second they walked on the floor till the second they walked off, he was in their ear. He was good at it.
Oh boy!
I didn't agree with him all the time, but he was good at it.
It's an art.
So, well, let's move on to a little bit of hockey.
Let's do some hockey.
And let's start with the Wild, who have lost 3 in a row since the last time we chatted.
Mm-hmm.
And not that losing to Carolina and Florida and Tampa Bay on the road is a horrible sign. And even Coach Dean Evison said if we play like we do in Tampa and lost 4-2, if we play that way minus taking a couple penalties, we're going to win more than we're going to lose.
Well, and I think that was kind of the opinion of the pundits on Mike Rand's podcast, and it's like going into Tampa and losing. That's no big deal.
There's no shame in that.
No shame in that, and they played well. So I think they're real pleased with the goalie combination that they weren't sure of at the beginning of the year, and that seems to have solidified fairly well.
Yep.
I think that everybody is probably looking for my good friend Mr. Dumba to depart the team, thus making the defense what they think is a little bit stronger. But the defense hasn't really been that bad.
No,
At times
no.
they played exceptionally well. I think they want to get. Well, it's like one lady says, we want 4 lines and 3 sets of defensemen, or 2 sets of defensemen, and right now they're not there.
Yeah, I think everybody in the league is maybe searching for all that, maybe except for the Boston Bruins, which are playing out of their absolute mind. They've won 38 out of 47 games.
Oh,
hockey.
They have lost 9 games.
Yeah. And 4 of those in overtime or the shootouts. So anyway, you start thinking about that. Really, I think Dumba is gone before the trade deadline, which is March 2nd or March 3rd, excuse me. So I think he's gone before then. I think they try to pick up a center. I think they were going to try to trade him last week when he was a healthy scratch for 2 games. He made what I would call a bonehead play in Washington last Tuesday night. They sat him Thursday, Saturday with the 2 road games, and he played on Tuesday. So I think they're shopping him around. They wanted to make sure he wasn't hurt. They didn't get the right offer. Somebody will give him the right offer soon, because somebody's gonna get a defenseman hurt, and somebody wants to make a move down the stretch, and
he's a good experienced defenseman, and if he's starting to get a half a step slow, I don't know that that's the case.
I think the biggest thing about Dumba is he makes unwise choices at times. He wants to be offensive, and to me, when you've got an offensive defenseman, okay, that's good. As long as the rest of the team understands that when he's on the ice, he's going to do a crazy something. So somebody better be the center, needs to be there to cover. So the center who's ever on the ice with him, and sometimes that's not a combination that works. And so I'm in the play that I'm talking about against Washington. He is up above. He's a defenseman. He's up above the circles, and the puck goes zipping right by him. And where he is supposed to be playing, and I think those are the things that the coaching staff are saying.
And those are basics.
You're not a forward. You're not when the puck is in the zone and it's possessed by the other team. You're not up above the circles.
No,
it's ridiculous.
I've seen a lot of defensemen love making the rush, but they had like Bobby Orr when he was playing for Boston. 75% of the goals scored against, he was on the ice. They were scoring on while he was there because he was up around the net looking for points, and so and doing it well. They didn't tell him to quit.
Yes, interesting decisions.
And I've got a grandson that plays defense, and there is nothing that he enjoys more than scoring. And he's playing defense, but if he could see where that slot that just splits up a little bit. Bam! He goes, and he's quick enough to be able to respond, but you're going to get caught out of position from time to time when you play that way, and sometimes you have to play that way. Sometimes, you want that defenseman to come in. Yeah.
It's tough to learn that.
It is tough to learn.
It's tough to know when you're going to flip the switch and when you're not.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little college hockey, because to me there was a lot of interesting stuff that happened last week in men's college hockey. Number 1, Quinnipiac, was number 1. They're no longer number 1. Do you know who the number 1 team in the nation is? St. Cloud State is the number 1 team in the nation.
How did that happen? That's incredible.
Well, they got Brett Larson away from Scott Sandelin a few years ago after having Bob Motzko there for many years.
Yeah.
And I would say the rest is history, because
Brett Larson, he was
the assistant coach for Scott Sandelin for years and years.
Yeah,
2 different stints, as I remember correctly. So, having said that, St. Cloud was number 4, beat number 3 Denver twice. Minnesota, who was number 2, splits with number 8 Michigan. So St. Cloud.
2 really good games.
Two really good games, both of them going to overtime. So just on the edge right there. So, yeah, I got to watch a little bit. I saw the overtime goal on Friday night. Did not see it on Saturday. But I'll tell you, I know our good friend Mike Bolstead likes to belittle college hockey, that it's boring, that it's whatever.
Oh, it is not.
That it's too defensive, that the guys are too old. It's not the way it was when I played it. When I'll say it now, Mike, when you're not here to defend yourself, when we played back in the 80s and nobody played defense, it was just freewheeling hockey, and if it ended up 7-6, coaches were happy. It's not the way hockey is played in 2023.
It really isn't. And it's very difficult for a kid to come out of high school and go right into major college hockey without playing a year or two of juniors or having some kind of a farm system experience. And so what happens now all the kids are 24 and 25. That argument went out the window with COVID, because half the football teams in the country had 25 and 26-year-old quarterbacks older than the NFL. So it was, this kind of happens. And we've had times in American history where at the end of World War II, a lot of guys came back, and, Leo Namalini in the 40s and the 50s was a brutal football player, an All-American. Well, he was a war veteran, combat war veteran. These guys were tough, and they were old, and that's what you're seeing now. They're also very, very good. And Sandlin's got a bit of a rebuilding job, but he'll pull out that miracle stop when it comes to playoffs. He's going to win a few games.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
St. Cloud State comes to UNB this weekend.
Oh boy.
I told Eli this morning, I said, those bums from St. Cloud State, nothing good's ever come out of St. Cloud State.
Yeah.
And his mother went over and whispered in his ear, your dad graduated from St. Cloud State.
Yeah, so
and I said, that's right. There's good people that come from St. Cloud State. I said, as did your 3 aunts that graduated from St. Cloud State. So I obviously am pulling for my Bulldogs, but St. Cloud State does good, and I'll be very happy, and that would be all right.
No, and there's just some really good teams in Minnesota. Bemidji and St. Cloud and
Mankato
and UMD. St. Thomas is going to be popping up here anytime quick, so they got a new arena and stuff.
Only $75 million worth off of a donation. Yeah, they're going to be pretty. They're going to play basketball and hockey in this place, so they're going to have the deluxe version where they can move things in and out in a hurry, I would assume. And good for St. Thomas. It's going to make. I think. I know, Mike. If you watch this show, I know you're already rolling around on me, but I'll say this about college hockey. He doesn't like the fact that the Quinnipiacs are the #1 in the nation, because they were a Division III school when he was going. Well, it's watered down. Mike, there's plenty of great college hockey players out there to go play college hockey. It's great, and the fact that St. Thomas was a Division III school and they're playing Division I is only going to make hockey even better, because there's going to be more spots for kids to go have a chance to go play. So. Whether you think that, when you played and there was all this talent running around, and there were only 12 teams playing. So
my friend in Boston says there is 21 Division I schools that play hockey within driving distance of Boston. 21, and Quinnipiac is just one of them. There were people that didn't know where Quinnipiac was, didn't even know how to say it.
I don't even know. I still don't know where Quinnipiac is, but I know how to say it. I think.
Yeah. So, but I love seeing these. I think that the kids, regardless of what we have going here, most of these kids are not going to play in the NHL either.
No.
This is good. They're going to play their 4, their 5 years, and it's like my friend Mr. Vold down at Bemidji says, I could play another year, but my dad says I got to go to work. So
there you go.
So this is the reality for hockey players as well as anything else. And so I like to see them out there having fun. I enjoyed watching the Bemidji a little bit ago, and watching they got some really good players, and it's fun to see that. I don't know, it's good competition.
Pee Wee A hockey tournament in town last weekend. Our Pee Wees here in International Falls had won the Fort Francis tournament the weekend before. They win their tournament at home this past weekend. Got to do a couple games on the radio. You want to talk about a fun team to watch? These kids can
So
skate.
these are
11
to 7th and 8th grade.
11 to 13-year-olds.
Okay, 11 to 13. This is the beginning of the seriousness of it right here.
Yeah.
And hey, I like watching them.
It was fun. I enjoyed it. Like I said, they got some kids that can really skate, and I don't know if they necessarily have a big enforcer, but that's not to say that you don't necessarily need that at the Pee Wee level. But you'd like to see some bulk. But maybe these kids will grow up, right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So the Bantam A's win their tournament 2 weekends ago. The Pee Wee A's win their tournament this past weekend. The Pee Wee B's are at home. They've got their home tournament coming up this weekend. So if you live in town here, get out, support those kids, give a chance to watch. Not quite as spread out. They've got three teams from Fort Francis, a couple teams from Emo that are coming in. So I don't know how much of it I'm going to get to watch just because I've got games on the air and etc. But it's always good to get out and support the kids and see.
Well,
what,
it is.
see what's going on.
I remember our the 9th grade football portion of the team this year when they were in 7th and 8th grade. I was watching them thinking, Jesus, these kids are just playing football. No, they were serious football players then, and they've grown into even more serious. And I think you might have this with this Pee Wee team.
Yeah. I'm hoping that they can keep it together and doing what they're doing, and obviously, like I said, they keep progressing. Right now, I mean, am I talking glory years from the 1960s? No, I don't think I'm talking that. But what I am talking is that there's some kids out there that can really move and shake and do things, and it's like I said, it was fun to watch. The last 2 weekends were fun to watch with the Bantams and the Pee Wees.
And we get ours from either Facebook or from some other platform, but one that we get is a parent, and this would be for the Squirts, and is he fun? He's just he's I think he's like an engineer or something, but he spends the weekend doing this broadcasting, and we listen to Frank all the time because he's just hysterical. And
As long as you're having fun.
yeah, he's having a really good time. He's a former hockey player, and he has many things to say, particularly about officiating. And as long as we're talking about officiating, this is starting to become a bit of an issue. Just getting them. My 11-year-old grandson gets $50 a game, and
I was informed that in International Falls they get 45. I was horrified. I'm like, holy smokes, that's a lot of money.
It is.
When I was 11 years old or 13 years old and reffing elementary games, we did it because Dad said you were going to go ref it. They need somebody, you're going to go ref it. There was no money. There was no whatever.
No,
of course,
it
probably got you out of shoveling manure. So hey, let's go. Why not?
Anything to avoid the shovel.
Anything to avoid having
No,
to
it's
clean.
just like right now they got young men that are out there, and some of them really like officiating, and they're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And so I really don't climb on referees, and so I asked my grandson who does officiating and is a player, I says, well, what do you do when somebody complains about one of your calls? I look at him, point my finger, that's a warning. Simple. Does that work for you too? No. But we'll see. He's learning. He's a good official.
So other things I want to talk about, the Australian Open is coming to a close. The women's final is in place, and I forgot that Elena Rybakina was the Wimbledon champion last summer. She's into the finals against Aryna Sabalenka, so two mouthfuls of names there to say. It should be a good final.
Should be a good one, yeah.
A lot of the top seeds. Sabalenka was the number 5 seed. Rybakina, I think, was the 22nd seed.
She was way down. I caught the first couple of rounds just to catch to see who was still in there. But
yeah. So it was those semifinals were last night. The men's semifinals are tonight. Tsitsipas out of Greece against Kachanov, and then the other one is an American. Oh, an American in the semifinal of a Grand Slam. How we don't 2 in a row. After Francis Tiafoe went last year in the U.S. Open. Anyway, this is Tommy Paul, and he gets number 4. Hard to believe we're saying that, but Novak Djokovic, who is the prohibitive favorite to win, and I would guess that if Tommy could get one set off of Novak, he'd feel pretty good.
Yeah, I think he would. What happened to my friend Korba?
Korda is
Korda.
You know, here's the thing about him is, did you know that his two sisters play in the LPGA tour?
No, he's a good golfer.
I didn't realize that the name, and the dad was the tennis player,
Yeah.
and mom was. Guys, I don't think she was a tennis player. They were talking about the family the other day, and that Korda from they're all from the States, but the two sisters are on the LPGA tour, and I'm flipping through the channels this past weekend very briefly. Guess who's the first player that I see up swinging? Korda. No, and I'm like, okay, there she is. She's playing golf. So very athletic family apparently.
Yeah, I guess they're probably pretty good.
Yeah, Americans had a great run, especially on the men's side. Women's, not too bad. Coco Gauff, I don't want to say disappointed, but obviously lost in the round of 16, and then Jessica Pegula, who was the number 3 seed, loses in the quarters. So I'd like to have seen one or both of those ladies make it at least to the semis. But hey, we'll wait for the French Open, where I don't have a whole lot of hope, but you just never know.
No, and they escorted 4 Russians out of the place. So it was,
Why do we
take
got to make it
politics out,
political?
can ya?
Why we got to make it political?
No, I
Dang
know.
it. The other thing is the Northern Ontario curling playdowns are going on in Kenora, and
I'm pretty excited about that.
we've got a team out of Fort Francis and a team out of Stratton on the ladies' side that are participating, and it disappoints me to no end that I cannot make it up there. If there was one day I was going to make it to Kenora, it would have been today, because I got games Friday and Saturday. I tell you, it would be fun to go up, and I mean, all the curling's on your phone, on the computer, and you can watch it, but it's not the same as being there when you can watch it and
Drink beer.
okay, drink beer. You're in Canada. That's part of the equation, isn't it?
is.
Not. But anyway, the curling kind of gets into earnest as the national championships get played here, coming up on both sides of the border, and of course the world championships coming up in April. So I love curling. I wish I could take part in it more than I do. But looking
That'd be a good sport for you.
yeah. So anyway,
Maybe someday when you get older.
what else is going on? Anything?
I can't think of anything. Let me check my notes.
Yeah, we put a pretty good cover on the things with baseball, football, hockey, curling, and tennis. Other than that, hey, an albatross, a double eagle in golf last week by Xander Schauffele. That's a 2 on a par 5.
A 2 on a par 5.
2 on a par 5. You don't see that every week.
No, you don't see that hardly at all. I've never done that.
Never. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And chances are.
It's never going to happen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That is something.
It is.
2 and a 5.
All right. Go Eagles and go Bengals.
Yes, I couldn't agree, except 49ers and Chiefs.
Thanks, everybody.